Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into something you specifically requested.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, a comparison of Disney and Studio Ghibli. You want to know how these animation powerhouses from totally different parts of the world
Right?
tackle these huge themes like gender,
Mm-hmm.
love,
Okay.
religion, and the environment?
Wow, that's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
So get ready for a fascinating journey.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So we have some really cool material to work with today, especially this paper
Okay.
called The Cinema's Fight Between Eastern and Western, Studio Ghibli versus Disney.
Wow, that's a catchy title.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It really digs into this whole idea of visual culture and how animation especially plays like a massive role in shaping our beliefs and behaviors.
Yeah, it's like we're learning a visual language from when we're kids.
Absolutely.
You know, those early Disney and Ghibli films, they really teach us like what's normal, what to want, even what a hero or a villain is supposed to look like.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
On one side, we have Disney, like the giant of Western animation.
Right.
Right. They're fairy tales, that catchy music, that classic Disney style.
Uh-huh.
Generations have grown up with these movies.
Totally.
But the paper also points out some criticisms of Disney,
Oh, okay.
particularly when it comes to gender roles.
Mm-hmm.
Some argue that their portrayal of women can reinforce those classic damsel in distress tropes,
I can see that.
which is where Studio Ghibli comes in.
Okay.
They have a completely different style, drawing on, Japanese anime aesthetics.
Okay.
They're known for these like really complex narratives and characters that aren't always, perfect.
I like that. More human, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Ghibli often flips the script on those Disney tropes.
How so?
Take San from Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, I love that movie.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Instead of, a princess waiting for a prince,
Right.
she's like this fierce warrior fighting alongside forest spirits.
Yeah, she doesn't need saving.
No, she's out there doing her own thing.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the messages that kids are absorbing, right? Are they seeing like a princess who needs saving or a warrior who takes charge?
It's such a good point.
It's so powerful.
It is, yeah.
And this difference is even more apparent when we look at how each studio portrays love, according to the paper.
Wow, interesting.
Because, Disney's all about that true love's kiss.
Right.
The woman's happiness hinges on finding her prince.
Yeah, the classic fairy tale ending.
Right.
Yeah.
But Ghibli explores like a much broader spectrum of love.
In what ways?
Think about the bond between Chihiro and Haku in Spirited Away.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
It's so powerful.
It is.
And meaningful, but it's not romantic love.
Yeah.
Something deeper,
Yeah.
a connection forged through their shared experiences
Right.
and their mutual respect for each other.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these studios coming from such different cultures offer these like contrasting views.
It is, it is.
Do you think those those differences in portraying love stem from cultural values, or are there other factors at play?
That's a great question. And actually, the paper delves into that,
Oh, okay.
suggesting it's like a blend of cultural influences and storytelling traditions, and even the studio's own like artistic choices.
So it's not just East versus West, right?
Right.
There are layers upon layers to unpack.
Absolutely. And that complexity becomes even more apparent when we look at how Disney and Ghibli handle religion and spirituality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now this is where things get really interesting
Okay.
because both studios exhibit what the paper calls religious fanaticism,
That's interesting.
but in very, very different ways.
Oh, okay.
It's not about judgment. It's about recognizing how those underlying beliefs, like, influence the stories that they tell.
Yeah.
Disney, with its, Western roots, often leans towards promoting Christian values,
Right.
sometimes even overshadowing other belief systems,
Interesting.
like in The Hunchback of Notre Dame,
Okay.
where, like, the cathedral isn't just a backdrop.
Yeah.
It's practically a character.
Right.
It looms over the whole story, almost dictating the morals and actions of the characters.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have Ghibli, where Shintoism,
Yeah.
which is so deeply rooted in Japanese culture,
Uh-huh.
subtly permeates their films.
Okay.
Princess Mononoke, for example.
Yeah.
It's not explicitly religious,
Right.
but it's like steeped in those Shinto themes, that reverence for nature, the presence of spirits, that like interconnectedness of all things.
It's more subtle.
It is. It's very subtle.
Yeah.
It's like these seemingly simple animated films are like windows into entirely different worldviews.
That's a cool way to put it.
Shaped by their cultural and religious contexts. And that brings us to another fascinating point of contrast. How each studio portrays the environment.
Oh, okay.
Because both studios care about the environment.
Right.
But their approaches differ.
Yeah. How so?
Right. So think of Bambi.
Bambi, okay.
That heart-wrenching scene with, Bambi's mother and the punter.
Yeah. So sad.
I know.
I still can't watch it.
It definitely drives home the message about protecting nature.
Right.
But it also paints humans as the villains.
That's interesting.
Which is interesting because Ghibli films like Princess Mononoke.
Okay.
Or Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Yeah, I love that one.
Don't shy away from showing humanity's destructive potential.
Right.
But they don't villainize us either.
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
Ghibli often taps into that Shinto perspective where humans are a part of nature, not separate from it.
Interesting.
We make mistakes, we cause harm, but there's also that potential for balance and coexistence.
It's a more hopeful outlook.
It is. It's like they're saying we have a responsibility to find that balance, which is a powerful message.
It is, yeah.
And it makes you think about the impact these films have, especially on young viewers. Do they see humans as inherently destructive?
Right.
Or as capable of learning and coexisting with nature?
Such a good question.
It's a crucial question.
It is.
And it highlights how these seemingly simple animated films can spark these really profound discussions about our place in the world.
Right. It's more than just entertainment.
It is. It's mind-blowing when you realize how much thought and cultural influence goes into each frame of these films.
Yeah, it really is.
It's incredible.
It is. Yeah, it really is amazing how much depth and cultural nuance is woven into these animated worlds.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another fascinating point raised in the paper. The concept of the visual other.
Okay. Color me intrigued.
Oh,
what does that mean in the context of Disney and Ghibli?
So it's about how visual representations, especially in animation, can subtly reinforce this idea of us versus them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think
about those classic Disney villains.
Right.
Cruella de Vil, Ursula, Scar.
Right.
They often have these exaggerated features, darker color palettes, mannerisms that set them apart from the heroes.
Yeah, it's those visual cues create a shorthand for good versus bad.
Exactly.
Or acceptable versus unacceptable.
Right.
Even if we don't consciously realize it.
Exactly. And the paper argues that this can contribute to unconscious biases.
Oh, wow.
We start associating certain visual traits with negative qualities.
Right.
And that can kind of spill over into real world perceptions.
So even in these fantastical animated worlds,
right,
there are these subtle messages shaping how we see the world and the people in it.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it?
It is.
And it makes you wonder if Ghibli, with its different cultural background, handles this concept of the visual other in a different way.
Well, I'm thinking about those Ghibli heroes and heroines.
Yeah.
They often have a wider range of appearances and personalities.
Mm-hmm.
They're not always conventionally beautiful or perfectly heroic.
Yeah.
They feel more human, flaws and all.
You've hit on a key difference. Ghibli often embraces imperfection.
Oh, interesting.
Their heroes and villains can be complex, even morally ambiguous.
Okay.
Think about Princess Mononoke.
Yeah.
The forest spirit is both beautiful and terrifying. Like a force of nature that defies easy categorization.
It's they're challenging that simplistic good versus evil dichotomy that we see so much in Western storytelling.
Precisely, and visually, Ghibli often plays with color palettes and character designs in ways that Disney doesn't take no face from Spirited Away.
Oh, yeah.
He's a mysterious, shape-shifting spirit who can be both menacing and vulnerable, and his appearance reflects that duality, blending light and shadow, beauty and grotesqueness.
That's so different from the clear-cut visual distinctions between heroes and villains and Disney films.
Yeah.
It's Ghibli is inviting us to look beyond surface appearances and consider the complexity of characters and motivations.
It's a more nuanced approach for sure.
Yeah.
And it reflects a deeper exploration of human nature and the gray areas of morality.
It's making me realize how much power animators have in shaping our perceptions, you know?
Absolutely.
It's not just about creating beautiful images.
Right.
It's about using those images to tell stories that reflect different worldviews and values.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this comparison between Disney and Ghibli so fascinating.
Yeah.
They both excel at visual storytelling,
Right.
but they do so in ways that reflect their distinct cultural contexts.
Okay, I have to ask, how does this idea of the visual other play out in terms of gender roles specifically? Because we were talking earlier about how Disney has been criticized for reinforcing traditional princess tropes.
That's a great question. And visually, there are some striking differences between how Disney and Ghibli portray their female characters.
Oh, okay.
Think about body language and clothing.
Okay.
Disney princesses often adopt a more passive stance.
Yeah.
Their heads are tilted down, their bodies held close.
It's true. They're often, like, depicted as delicate
Right.
and in need of protection.
Exactly.
And their clothing, while beautiful,
Yeah.
often restricts their movement.
Right.
Think of Cinderella in that grand ball gown.
Yeah.
Or Ariel struggling to, like, walk on land with her human legs.
Exactly. Now contrast that with the female characters in Ghibli films.
Okay.
They often stand tall, their bodies open and expressive. They wear practical clothing.
Right.
That allows them to move freely, whether they're flying on a broomstick or battling forest demons.
It's like their clothing reflects their agency.
Yes.
And their ability to, like, take action. They're not waiting for a prince to rescue them. They're out there shaping their own destinies.
Precisely. Think of Kiki in Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah.
Soaring through the sky with her flowing dress billowing behind her.
Right.
Or San in Princess Mononoke, clad in furs and wielding a spear as she fights for what she believes in.
Their clothing becomes a symbol of their, like, power and freedom.
Absolutely.
It's a subtle but powerful visual cue that communicates a different understanding of femininity.
Absolutely. And those visual cues extend beyond clothing.
Okay.
Think about facial expressions and how characters interact with their environments.
Right.
Ghibli heroines often display a wider range of emotions.
Uh-huh.
They're allowed to be angry, determined, even mischievous.
Interesting.
You know, they engage with the world around them actively, not passively.
It's like they're not afraid to take up space.
Exactly.
And make their presence known.
Yes.
It's a much more dynamic and empowering representation of womanhood.
Exactly. And those subtle visual differences reflect a deeper cultural shift.
Okay.
Ghibli films, while rooted in Japanese traditions, also embrace a more modern sensibility when it comes to gender roles.
It's like they're saying that women can be strong and independent without sacrificing their femininity or their capacity for compassion.
Beautifully put. And that message is conveyed through every aspect of their visual storytelling.
Wow.
From character design to color palettes to the way those characters move and interact with their world.
This deep dive is making me appreciate just how much thought and artistry goes into crafting these animated worlds.
It really is.
You know, it's not just about entertainment.
Right.
It's about shaping perceptions.
Yeah.
And offering different ways of seeing the world.
And that brings us back to that paper's main point. Visual culture has a profound impact on how we understand the world and our place in it.
Yeah.
And animation, with its ability to reach both children and adults, holds a unique power in shaping those perceptions.
It's like a visual language that speaks to us on a subconscious level.
Exactly.
Shaping our beliefs and values even before we're fully aware of it.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of those subtle messages.
Right.
To analyze them critically and to engage in conversations about how those messages might be shaping our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Wow. This is a lot to take in.
I know it's a lot.
But I have a feeling we're not done yet, are we?
No, not quite.
We still need to explore how Disney and Ghibli tackle those big topics of religion and the environment, right?
You're right. We've just scratched the surface.
Right. Okay.
Those themes are where the cultural differences between these studios become even more apparent.
Okay. Lead the way. I'm ready to dive even deeper. Okay, so let's unpack how Disney and Ghibli, like, approach religion.
Okay.
Because I remember that provocative term from the paper, religious fanaticism.
Right. And it's important to remember that the paper uses that term.
Yeah.
Not to judge, but to observe how religious perspectives are kind of woven into these films.
Oh.
Disney, with its Western roots, often leans towards Christian values. And that's reflected in everything from the storylines to the visual imagery.
Yeah, it's more than just, like, churches as backdrops, right?
Right.
It's that whole concept of good and evil being so, like, clearly defined. Think about those classic Disney villains.
Okay.
They're not just bad.
Yeah.
They're often associated with, like, temptation,
Right.
darkness, things a good Christian should avoid.
Exactly. And the heroes are often rewarded with those happily ever afters that include a traditional wedding.
Oh, interesting.
Reinforcing the idea of marriage as a sacred institution,
Right.
it subtly reinforces a specific worldview that might not resonate with everyone globally.
Which is fascinating when you contrast it with, like, Ghibli.
Right.
They're not as explicitly religious, but Shintoism, with its reverence for nature and spirits,
Yeah.
subtly permeates their films.
It's like a different kind of spirituality.
Yeah.
One that's less about dogma
Right?
and more about finding harmony with the natural world.
Yeah.
Okay. Like in Princess Mononoke.
Yeah.
The forest spirits aren't good or evil in the traditional sense.
Right.
They're powerful forces that humans need to respect
Yeah.
and coexist with.
It makes you think about how these films might shape a child's understanding of, like, religion and spirituality.
Definitely.
Do they see a world where good and evil are, like, clearly defined, or one where there are shades of gray
Right.
and a need for balance?
It's a great question, and it highlights how these films can offer very different perspectives on, like, the big questions of life.
Absolutely.
And those differences become even more apparent when we look at how Disney and Ghibli handle environmental themes.
Because we were talking about Bambi earlier.
Right.
And how it portrays humans as the villains
Yeah.
when it comes to nature.
Uh-huh.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
But does it offer, like, the full picture?
Right. Bambi's tragedy is moving, but Ghibli films like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind
Yeah.
offer a more nuanced perspective. They acknowledge the damage humans can inflict on the environment,
Yeah.
but they also highlight our potential for healing and coexisting with nature.
They're saying we're not inherently destructive.
Right.
We just need to find, like, a better way
Yeah.
to live in harmony with the natural world.
Exactly.
And visually, Ghibli often depicts nature as this, like, breathtaking, powerful force.
You think of the lush forests in My Neighbor Totoro,
Oh, yeah.
or the breathtaking landscapes in Spirited Away.
Yeah.
They create a sense of awe and wonder, encouraging viewers to appreciate the beauty and fragility of the natural world.
It's so different from those classic Disney scenes where nature is often like a backdrop,
Right.
like a pretty setting for the human drama to unfold.
Yeah.
In Ghibli films, nature is like a character in itself,
Exactly.
a force to be reckoned with.
It's a subtle but significant difference, and it reflects that underlying Shinto influence,
Right.
where nature is sacred and deserves our respect.
Wow, this deep dive has been so eye-opening.
That has been a good one.
It's amazing how much cultural context and worldview is, like, embedded in these seemingly simple animated films.
It's a testament to the power of visual storytelling and how it can shape our perceptions of the world, even at a subconscious level.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what key takeaways would you leave our listener with?
I'd say remember that animation is more than just entertainment.
Yeah.
It's a powerful medium that can reflect and shape our values, beliefs, and understanding of the world.
And don't be afraid to, like, dig deeper,
Yes.
to analyze the messages that you're seeing, and to appreciate those diverse cultural perspectives that, like, enrich the world of animation.
Disney and Ghibli offer fascinating and contrasting lenses through which to view the world.
Yeah.
And both can spark really meaningful conversations about the big questions of life.
This has been a fantastic journey.
It has.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
It's been my pleasure.
To our listener, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this has been an insightful exploration of these two animation giants and the powerful messages that they convey.
Until next time.
Until next time, happy viewing.